Okay, my name is Michael Duvall, and I worked at the Joseph Papers Project. I'm going to give like 2 seconds of what the Joseph Papers Project does so you can understand how I got my internship and why it was of value to me. So we received a lot of accolades from the Brethren, non-Mormon scholars especially. And I'm just going to talk about this bottom part here. So the Joseph Smith Papers Project is dedicated to transparency, which means that we publish a lot of things that we know full well anti-Mormons will quote. But the mentality there is that if we just publish everything, Joseph Smith is bound to come out on top once he's revealed to these primary sources. And especially there's just so many subjects that it doesn't stop people from saying it, but intelligent people who read just can't say, oh, well, the church didn't tell me this anymore, because we've spent millions of dollars publishing everything online on Joseph Smith's polygamy and a lot of other issues. So a little bit on my internship and how I got it. So I'm an ancient Near Eastern Studies major, Hebrew Bible track. Now, if you're wondering what does that have to do with the Joseph Smith Papers, the answer is nothing. And so I had to be creative to get this internship. And I think this is important because I do have a lot of church history interest and some knowledge to back it up. But basically, I didn't plan for this internship, really. I saw a need, and I filled that need. I saw Stephen Harper at this very symposium a couple of years ago, and I'd been looking at my copy of the Joseph Smith Papers document series, and was like, wow, these indexes, because it's not a volume you read like a novel, you use the index, and sometimes the indices were really small or online and not even in the published volume, and I was like, these kind of suck a lot. And so I went up to Stephen Harper, and in the super nice way, I said, these indices suck a lot, and I would like to help. And I said I'd like to help for free. And so I got an informal internship, which actually ended up being kind of cool. So basically what the Joseph Papers is you have the original minutes and journals of Joseph Smith's sermons. That was made into an 1850s history, but whenever there's something confusing, they kind of edited it so that people wouldn't, they edited it from the minutes and journals. That is then made into this 1902 history of the church by Beach Roberts and his team. And this is really important because they just combine everything. It's really super obnoxious. So if a journal says, Joseph Smith said this in his sermon, and then another journal says, oh, I know he also said Y, and another says he said Z, then they just combine Joseph Smith said X, Y, and Z, and they make it first person. So it's Joseph Smith saying, I say unto you X, Y, Z, which is fine, which is good history for 1902, but is obviously super terrible now. And it's actually this 1902 history of the church that is quoted in everything. Really, unless it's scholarly literature from up to 5 or 10 years ago. That's what's quoted in the headings of our Doctrine and Covenants. It's quoted in teaching. Like anytime someone in sacrament meeting says, Joseph Smith said, they're probably quoting this 1902 history, so that's what we've been using for so long. So what they wanted me to do, because I mentioned offhand that I like teaching the prophet Joseph Smith quite a bit, and they asked me to take teachings of the prophet Joseph Smith down from 1902 history, down from the 18 histories, history if possible, and back to the original minutes and journals, so that when we quote Joseph Smith, we can do so properly. That was awesome for me. Joseph Smith, the teachings of the prophet Joseph Smith has probably sold hundreds of thousands of copies, and right now I can put on my resume that the most cutting edge research on it has been done by me, and pretty much just me. So that was awesome, and because of that informal internship, that led to a formal, also unpaid internship. So if you do a really good job for free, you can do more things for free. And kind of like the previous presenter mentioned, I think that I was asked to do like a lot of things, like a lot of these internships master's students would compete for, but because I'd done a good job on this previous project, they took me, and they were, I would say, be willing to be flexible in things you apply for, because they actually liked my ancient Near Eastern Studies degree and used it more than I thought, or they thought they would. Whenever there was something to do with Joseph Smith in Egyptian or Joseph Smith in Hebrew, I guess I was their guy because none of them know much about that. I knew not as much as they thought, but I pretended like I did. And I thought that was also valuable. If you don't know what you're doing, just pretend like you do and get feedback super often, because if you're off on the wrong place, then they'll tell you. But it's good to pretend. As long as you're correcting things, you make mistakes. So things I did, just kind of to wrap up, with the formal internship, I read a lot of anti-Mormon literature and found good arguments in it and bad arguments in it to see if they had sources that they were using that were valid sources. Usually not, but that's what I did. And I also worked on some articles that my supervisor was working on, like on Joseph Smith's Egyptian use. So I did a good job on those, and I pretended like I was competent in everything. And he told me at the end, he said, well, if you wanted to come back, you did everything I asked you to do. And so I ended up not doing that, but that's led to, instead, he transferred me over to a fellow, Jack Welch here at BYU, who's working on Joseph Smith's legal entrapments for the Joseph Smith papers, which is, I want to go into law. So in my law school applications right now, I'm putting on there that I'm working on a major publication with Joseph Smith's legal entrapments, which obviously helps quite a bit. So if I could just kind of boil down my internship into a few seconds. I would say be willing to get your foot in the door and leave it there until someone just feels awkward enough to accept you. And be confident that you can do what they ask you to do, even if you are not quite sure at first. That's why you get feedback. And I love church history and I love ancient stuff, and I was able to meld those in a way that I didn't think was quite possible. So be willing to branch out and be willing to do work for free. That's an option that a lot of people can't pass up, especially if they need help. And so that can open the door that otherwise might be closed. Yep.